Hey everybody, it's me, Rumi, the comic book poser, and I'm here today to welcome you to Enter the Poserverse. It's Monday, so you know what that means. It's time for me to break down what I think were the top 5-ish books from last week's New Comic Book Day that you should pick up on this week's New Comic Book Day if you missed out on them. And to see what I think you should be checking out, you'll have to wait and find out after this.
Hey, little girl, did you want to know a secret?
I got 5 on it. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, another fantastic week. There were really only 2 books that kind of left a weird, bad feeling with me, or things that I was like, oh, I don't know if this is going to survive the pull list anymore. And one of them was just a random impulse buy that I didn't get it. And then you can probably guess it was a DC book. And we've already talked at length about how I'm too dumb to understand most DC things, because it's not my background. So, this week I've got 3 honorable mentions. The first is Black Cotton from Scout Comics. And to find out my in-depth thoughts on Black Cotton and why I think it's a really dope story with a bunch of potential, you can click, I think I can put my blog link pop up somewhere in here, and if I can't attach it on YouTube, then it's definitely in the description below. But I have a full analysis of like the way that it depicts race, the way that it depicts class, and a couple of different like conspiracy theories on the way I think that book is going to break down. But I liked it a lot and decided to leave that as a piece for the blog, and not here for the video. But Brian Hawkins et al. Did a magnificent job. Second honorable mention is X-Men Legends #1. It's Fabian Nizteca, Brett Booth, Alessandro Cordona, and Guru EFX. That this is a cluster of the Marvel Stormbreakers, the like next wave of artists that they've been featuring in a bunch of stuff. The reason why I loved this is if you are a big 90s X-Men fan, this feels like it's just ripped out of my childhood, right? That it takes me back to those high-octane stories without all of the, like, reorganization of, Krakoa and everything that we're dealing with now. And it actually takes place, if you look at the first footnote, after X-Men 39 from 1991. So it was cool to see, right, this bit of an older school tale where you're, looking at... it just feels different, right? The art feels like some of that 90s goodness. I would have loved if this was printed on newsprint. Like, that would have been super dope, where it's like you are picking up a piece of the time, the times, in a newsprint old school X-Men edition that is written to follow X-Men 31 from 1991. So this was a surprisingly great read. It initially was not on my pull list, but I'm going to give X-Men Legends #2 a shot when it comes out in a month. Third honorable mention from Vault Comics is Hollow Heart, Paul Allure, and Paul Tucker. Here you have Elle, who is like organs, like it's a human individual whose like skin and bones and structure have like started to fail. So he is put in, this kind of machine. So, imagine Peter Weller in RoboCop, where it's his face and his brain, but everything else is the machine. You can imagine Elle as kind of like, mostly human bits and pieces that's on life support with this large machine, right? So it's like full RoboCop, the human in full body armor. What you have is kind of a tale between Elle and one of his mechanics who is trying to, feel for Elle, right? To acknowledge that he's not just twisted wires and steel, that he is a human that is in containment, that is constantly in surveillance during all of this. And, he makes a couple of decisions that kind of sets Elle up on a path and also puts him down a path of action as well that I think is kind of intriguing, right? And just kind of the story of kind of the state of existence and the way that we perceive people. Like, this book is so good, but it is like very dark, and depressing and emotionally moving. And this is something that I'm looking forward to seeing what the next couple of issues look like for this, because I think Team Paul is on a premise and kind of prepared to take us down a path that is quite cool. And I'm anxiously waiting for more, like my sick, twisted emo child that is trapped inside of me is just left yearning for more of this stuff. Coming in at number 5 from Scout Comics is The Recount #1. It is written by Jonathan Hedrick. The artist is Gabriel Ibarra Nunez. The colorist is Sunil Garage, and the letterer is Christian Dolomansky. So book 1 of this, the premise is that the president is assassinated, and there's this big insurgent movement that's like, we're gonna kill everybody who voted for the president, everybody who is tight with this president, because he's an evil, evil dude. And it's a big, who do you trust, who do you not trust? And the main character that it kind of focuses on is President Christensen's vice president, because she is now the president, and she has a growing relationship with a Secret Service agent who is there to protect her. Throughout this book, we see that the movement is just game to make good on the promises that they did in issue 1, right? They are targeting people who voted for the president. They are targeting individuals who were electors in the Electoral College. And just to see like the level of organization that this group has is very, very terrifying. I've talked twice on Comic Burrito's channel about how I read The Recount #1 on January 6th, and then the Capitol was stormed, and I was like, God damn, Hedrick, you have a crystal ball. But to see how the rest of this kind of threads together and the new potential power struggle that it sets up is really, really cool. I also just love this cover, right, that you are seeing, right, the White House, but then you're seeing this kind of clown mask that is rooted to the ground, right? This notion of the we the people kind of grassroots movement are literally taking their government back from something that they thought was terrible. So now that the 2-month wait was over between issue 1 and issue 2, so more hype could be given, more reprints could be put out. Can't wait for issue number 3 in a month. And you showing your Bakugan?
Yeah.
What's his name?
Drago.
What kind of Bakugan is he?
It's a red one.
It's a red one. Do they have types like Pokemon have types?
Yeah, it's a red type.
Oh, it's a red type. So if I Google Drago,
You get the cards from my Bakugans.
yeah,
Hit that boom.
you'll see another video
Hit the boom.
soon
Hit the boom.
that Toby bought a bunch of
Hit
new
the
Bakugans
boom.
with his allowance.
Boom.
So there are your Bakukors,
And we have the pictures.
and then there are your new Baku cards. Or Bakugan cards. I don't know what you really call them. Do you know what you really call them?
I call them cards.
Alright. Coming in at number 4 this week is another fantastic read, and this is actually a biographical retelling of Peter Calloway's grandfather's history from Aftershock Comics. It's Shadow Doctor #1. It's written by Peter Calloway. Art is by Georges Janti. You got Juancho and Charles Pritchett on colors and the letters. And this is following the true story of Peter Calloway's grandfather, who shows up running like liquor during Prohibition. There's a big attack between the convoy that he's working with, and I think they say they're attacked by the Irish. They're attacked by some kind of mob. And it talks about the path that his grandfather goes down to get into medical school. That, right, he decides that he doesn't want to be a bootlegger, that he would rather go into medicine and help people. But this is at the time, right, it's in like the 30s and 40s, where even if a black person graduates from medical school, that there are white and colored only hospitals all over the United States, even in areas that weren't as tainted by Jim Crow, right? That he is in Chicago attempting to work at a white hospital. He graduates the top of his class, gets one hell of a recommendation, and is functionally told that he needs to go work at the colored hospital. And he thinks that's pretty screwed up, right? It hurts his ability to then, get money that he needs for his family to survive. And it, focuses on who he turns to in the last several pages to set up kind of the dramatic arc of the new life that his father, or his, the new life that he works in. The other thing that I really like in the back couple of pages of this is there's an interview, but also a glimpse through a photo album where we're getting some of the context about why Peter Calloway wants to tell his grandfather's story, why exactly he wants to do it now. And I think it's really good that this is a book that Aftershock has been hyping for the last 2 months in the back of their books, and it is worth it. So even if you have people that, don't get into comics or graphic novels, but they like good biographical things, this is a good story to try and have a conversation with someone, because I think it's going to be one of these good kind of biographical tales that has the potential to shake us in terms of looking at, are there elements of this screwed up medical system or the way society was wired in, the 20s, 30s, and 40s that are still remnant today. But I really like this book quite a lot. And I think when it comes out, number 2 comes out in a month, it's easily going to be in one of the top 3 or 4 books that I read. Coming in at number 3 is the book that I thought I would be terrified to read, but it hasn't been too bad for me yet. From Image Comics is Haha, number 2. It's written by W. Maxwell Prince. The art and this cover are done by Zoe Thorogood, and the interior colors are done by Chris O'Halloran, and the letters are good old neon.
Voila! That's pretty funny. That's rocks.
So, this is the A cover. The B cover is really, really cool, and I can't remember who the artist is, but it's like a bunch of balloons and stuff, and I was able to find one, I think, on eBay for cover price, but I also have some of the virgin versions of that cover coming in from Golden Apple Collectibles, so it's really creepily cool. But it focuses on the young woman on the cover who is working at a roadside kind of freak show burlesque hybrid, and really how the choices from her life. What you got there, bud?
Oh my god, mine's for the destruction.
Yeah? Do you have a favorite Bakugan?
It's Drago.
Drago.
I show them all of them.
We can show them all of them in a different video. We're talking about what comics Daddy liked last week. Okay? Alright. But it kind of focuses on how her life was kind of put down a particular path because of the actions of her mother. And it's interesting to kind of look at the imprints that parents have on their children, but to see if it creates kind of a path dependency for life. So just like in issue 1 where it focuses kind of on a particular character, this does the exact same thing in just telling the story of one person. So I'm wondering if these paths are going to start crossing in the next couple of issues, so we don't have just kind of another one-off, series kind of like Ice Cream Man is. That I think this has the potential to be radically different, and I'm just waiting to see how all of the pieces come together. Coming in at number 2, another Aftershock book. This is We Live number 5, the end of the first arc. It's by the Miranda brothers, Eva de la Cruz, and Dave Sharp, the one letterer who you look at his picture and he's like, he can whoop half the comic book industry's ass. So this is one that I'm going to tread lighter on in terms of spoilers, because we know that this has been kind of announced for a second arc. But up to this point, we know that, the goal has been to get kids that find these special bracelets to an extraction zone, because it's countdown to, the end of the world, right? And across the last 2 books, You see different clusters kind of getting to the destination. Other people are dealing with more drama and strife on their way there. But what really gets me is I did not see the ending of this coming. They even announced kind of the new title and showed, like, I think it was like a cover image or two of the beginning of the second arc, and I was like, oh, that kind of looks cool. Didn't think about this, fifth book in any context, and good God, the way that the end of this story kind of shapes out is the perfect setup for a second arc, but leaves the readers with like a million questions in a good way. So trying to figure out what exactly is going to happen with these kids that were brought to the extraction zone, the meaning of these bracelets, and most importantly, what happens when we reach 0 on the countdown clock, is a very good question that is going to be fleshed out in another 5-issue arc of its own. And this is real good, and I'm gonna hop in and see if I can find anything else that the Miranda brothers have done, because this story was just, again, a brilliant doomsday scenario that is turned on its head in a different direction, that keeps me excited as someone who reads a lot. And our final book of the week, first book I read, I thought about moving it down a spot or two, but there was no way I could do it whatsoever. From IDW, The Last Ronin #2, by Eastman and Laird, Waltz, Escorza, Bishop, and Delgado. There are a bunch of cats on this book. This is something else that I'm going to try and not be full spoilery about, because I know that there were some people who were like, I'm going to wait and read some other Turtle stuff to get caught up in trade. But I know the question that, a lot of people have been kicking around as this has been reviewed is, does it live up to the hype? And the answer is a solid yes, right? In this book, we get a little bit more context in terms of the first of the Turtles who kind of die, right, as we dwindle down their losses to the Foot Clan to get, to the last Ronin. We get to know who the first of the Fallen is. We get to learn a lot more about who has been living in the Turtles' lair in their absence and how their life has been altered in a very good way. But the one thing that I will show that I think is really, really cool, so I'm just going to pick a random page without context, right? So you see like the leader of the Foot Clan training, and then 2 pages later, it's like you're reading one of the OG Mirage books. And it is just really, really cool to see how you are shocked back into that world. That I think this is a great Turtles tale. I think this is a great book for anybody who is a fan of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, let alone whether or not you've read the Mirage stuff, the Archie stuff, any of the IDW stuff. That I just think it's a really, really good story. And, we know that the Turtles are going to slowly be withered down to 1, right? We knew that from reading the first one, thus the title of The Last Ronin. And if the death of, the next 2 Ninja Turtles that happen just are as poetic and beautifully done and as moving as we saw in this book, then this series is going to have been worth the wait. It's going to have been worth all of the hassle and the drama. And I just think that this is really, really, really good. And you should hop on it if you have the faintest interest of getting into Turtles. If you want some kind of in-depth spoiler review, you can go check out Two Brothers Comics on a Thursday. Dustin did a full spoiler review of this where you can see if you kind of caught all of the Easter eggs. It was a big part of Burke Family 54's stream last Thursday night, and then there are probably a couple other folks who have been talking about the Last Ronin in both a spoilery and a non-spoilery context, but your 2-minute drill is, I liked it, it's real good. I hope we don't have to wait as long for issue 3, right as they straighten out number of printings and errors and all of that stuff, because this series is amazing. So what did you think? Are there books that you read this week that you liked that didn't make the top of my list? As always, let me know either in the chat over here Or let me know in the comments down below if you were catching this on the rewind. Second, we did it. We hit our 750 subscribers. So you've got 2 more days to get in and comment on the 750 subscriber video, which is the video that's pinned to the top of my page to get you on the wheel to win one of these 2 copies of Hotel Number 1 at a 9.2 that I'm gonna literally record that video at like 12:01 Wednesday morning and drop the winners, who will have like a week to get a hold of me on Instagram to tell me how you want me to ship these to you. But we did it. Next week I will drop some of the things that I will be giving away when I hit 1,000. That I've got, like I said, a couple of good things, couple of things in the works. So if you have any ideas of some things that you want my poor father of 3 on a teacher salary asked to try and hunt for you as a thank you for all of the support and getting me to where I'm at, let me know, and I'll definitely try and go for a hunt. But as always, thanks for stopping by, and have a good one.
Hey, little girl, did you want to know a secret?
I got 5 on it. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.